Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Clarksville's Political Forum. I'm Van Stokes, your moderator for today's session, and on behalf of Leadership Clarksville and your Clarksville Area Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining us today. As always, this forum is intended to give you, the voters, an informed choice when you go to the polls on November the 6th. Once again, today's forum is coming to you from the facilities of the Mass Communications Department here on the campus of Austin Peay State University. Today, we're going to have the opportunity to talk with the candidates who will be on the ballot for Ward number 10 of the Clarksville City Council. They are Mr. Mike Alexander and Ms. Stacey Streetman. Now, in a moment, they each will have 2 minutes in which to present their opening comments from their seats at the table. Following their opening remarks, we will then turn to our panelists for questions. Joining us today are our panelists, Mr. J. Albritton, Mr. Lee Irwin, and Mr. Jimmy Settle. Now, each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to each question from our panelists in a rotating order. At the conclusion of the questioning, each candidate will then have 2 minutes in which to present closing statements. Closing statements will be presented in reverse order from the opening comments. Our timekeeper once again for this session is Ms. Yvonne Pickering. The City Council here in Clarksville is comprised of 12 council members, each representing a different ward here in the city. Members are elected to a 4-year term. The City Council votes on city ordinances and resolutions governing the city of Clarksville. It also approves the budget for the city and sets the city property tax rate. Council members approve changes to the city policies as specified in the city code. The council is also responsible for adopting potentially far-reaching policies and ensuring that those policies are indeed followed. Now, each council member is appointed to serve on one or more committees of the council. The issues deal with taxation, safety, and services to a growing community, just to name a few. Let's go now to our candidates for opening comments. We will hear first from Mr. Mike Alexander.
Thank you, sir. Again, my name is Mike Alexander. I am the current city councilman for City Council Ward 10. I've served these past 4 years in Ward 10. I currently chair the Streets and Transportation Committee. A little history on myself. Been in Clarksville since 1967. Remember it when you used to be able to walk down the street and say hi and know most everybody's name. Now it's a little bit different, but we've grown and we've grown well. We've grown with some controls. In 1992, my experience with the City Council, I was elected and served 2 terms from 1992 to 2000. I am a Marine Corps veteran, joined the Marines after I graduated Clarksville High School in 1972, volunteered for combat and during the height of the Vietnam War, served until 1976. Unfortunately, I had to come out early. Had a severe back injury due to an accident. I was a tanker in 1975 in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So now, anyway, so I left the Marine Corps in '76, a few months early, and met my darling wife in 1980. Married, raised 2 children. Now have 4 grandchildren, all going through the Clarksville Montgomery County school system. As I stated, I am your current City Council Ward 10 City Councilman, and with that, I have proven hard work, experience, and leadership, and I would say you need to keep it and re-elect Mike Alexander to City Council Ward 10.
Thank you very much. Next, we will have opening comments from Ms. Stacey Streetman.
Hi, my name is Stacey Streetman, and I'm running to be the representative for Ward 10 on the Clarksville City Council. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking Leadership Clarksville and the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on today and giving us the opportunity to show you the options that are available to you on November 6th. I not only want to thank them for this opportunity today, but as a 2011 graduate of Leadership Clarksville and an 11-year representative for the Clarksville Chamber of Commerce, I appreciate everything that they have given me over the years to give me the opportunity to be able to run for this spot. I learned a lot during my time in Leadership Clarksville, and since then have been involved in lots of organizations that have allowed me to see exactly what is needed in our community. One of the reasons that I would like to run is that I believe I will bring a fresh perspective to the City Council with a new vision and approach. I've been working for many years to build my network, which means I have a large resource to tap regardless of the issue. This enables me to really be able to look at issues from all sides, seek out creative solutions, and make the best possible decision for Ward 10 and for Clarksville. To know me is to know I am full of energy, which means I have the energy to work hard for our ward and our city to make the best possible decisions based on the idea in front of me, regardless of who brings it forward. And I'm a team player who wants what is best for all of us, and I'm willing to work with others to figure out how to make it happen, whether that is with our mayors, my fellow city council representative, or our county commissioners. I'm highly accessible, and I want to build relationships with the residents of Ward 10. I'd like to get to know all of you and let you get to know me so that when it comes down to November 6th and you have to make the choice, you vote for Stacey Streetman, City Council Representative, Ward 10.
Thank you very much for those opening comments. We now turn to our panelists who have questions for our candidates. Our first question will come from Mr. J. Albertia, and it will go to Mr. Mike Alexander for the first response.
Mr. Alexander, how are you today? Of all these races, this is one of the most important to me because I live in Ward 10, so it's my representation. Could you just tell me, we've heard both of you talk about your qualifications, but why or what is motivating you to run for City Council?
Same thing's motivating me now that did in '92 when I had 2 children that I was raising and wanting to make sure that the future of the city of Clarksville was headed in the right direction. And then when I retired from the police department and the Ward 10 seat came open and that current council member wasn't serving, I said, well, I still have a lot to bring to the table, so I'm going to head back to the table. So in 2014, I was elected to this position, and my biggest vision is continue to move Clarksville forward. Now I have 4 grandchildren to try to have a better city for. I did a pretty good job the first time. My daughter's a successful business lady here in Clarksville. She's done a great job with her accounting. And now I want to keep my 13, 11, 8, and 8-month-old grandchildren here in Clarksville working hard, making a good living. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Streetman.
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of the Clarksville-Montgomery County area with a passion for our community. And for well over a decade, I have been involved in helping my community at many different levels. But now I'm ready to raise that involvement to an elected level. I visited Chattanooga last year as part of an inner-city visit with the Chamber and was inspired by how everyone worked together as a team to get Chattanooga where it is today. Whether it was city officials, whether it was county officials, or whether it was university officials, they were all on the same page, all with the same talking points. It took them 20 years, but you have to have a plan with all parties participating and buying in, then you actually have to put in the work on that plan. I truly believe I can make an even bigger difference in our community than I already have, and based on the support that I've gotten from so many different people, they obviously believe the same thing as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lee Irwin, you have the next question, and it goes to Ms. Streetman.
Ms. Streetman, if you could narrow it down to one, what is the #1 issue facing your ward, and what are your plans to solve that issue?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I think that answer would vary based on who you're talking to. I've talked to many people in the ward and gotten a variety of responses to include traffic issues, family amenities, rezoning, too much growth, and not enough planned growth. The list goes on and on. I don't think we can pick just one issue and call it the biggest. While we all deal with traffic on a daily basis, so does most every other community, especially in Tennessee, due to the fact that they're behind on our roads. I think we make a mistake when we focus on only one issue. We lose sight of the bigger picture. If we focus on roads, do we forget about the senior citizen that wants to be able to walk to Publix? Do we forget about the child that wants to be able to play soccer and instead hand them an iPod and let them just play themselves? I don't think we can be short-sighted and say we will only vote or focus on one thing when there are so many other things that need to be considered that can work in conjunction with one another.
Mr. Alexander.
Thank you. It is very difficult to try to work this down to one. I mean, if arm twisted and just absolutely had to work this down to one issue, it'll be the same issue I ran on before and have worked extensively in favor of and have made a great deal of progress towards. And that's the traffic issues throughout the city of Clarksville. I'm not going to hold this down to just Ward 10. We represent the city of Clarksville, specifically Ward 10. But it's been painful and a long journey to get 41A finished and open. It's a great thing now that it is. Continue to make improvements on Highway 76. Warfield Boulevard, I am so glad to see moving forward now. And although, unfortunately, I think it's only half a job, it should be going all the way to Madison Street. At least I was able to work with the mayor to get the funding so the state would come back to that project because they had abandoned it. And now it's under construction. So I would, have to say if I've stuck to one, traffic issues.
Thank you very much. We turn next to Mr. Jimmy Settle, who has a question for Mr. Mike Alexander.
Thank you. Mr. Alexander, we're here today because we're obviously looking ahead to November 6th. Along with choosing a new city mayor and 6 city council members and some state legislative folks and congressional folks, there's a looming question on the ballot about whether we should consolidate our governments and just overhaul the whole process. And so I guess my question for you is, we now have that proposed charter of what this consolidated government would roughly look like. I want to know what you think about that charter. I want to know what you think about consolidated government in general in this community, please.
Well, as far as consolidate any government, I've worked 3 terms under 3 different mayors, and I've worked well and been able to make a lot of accomplishment on all 3 terms under all 3 mayors. As far as consolidated government or the way it's set up right now, I can work within the framework of what I'm given. If they, the biggest thing about this is, and that I appreciate the most, is it's going to a vote, and it's going to be a referendum, and it's going to be up to the citizens of Clarksville and Montgomery County, separately, as always has been, to make that decision. Whatever they decide on when I'm reelected, I will serve in whatever government I need to be serving under, be it consolidated or be it the way it currently runs.
Ms. Streetman.
Well, in regard to consolidated government, I do believe that's a personal decision that everyone has to make for themselves. But one thing that I can say as a business banker for one of our local financial institutions, and again as a chamber representative, I've dealt with a lot of small businesses and talked to them. And I can say one aspect in regard to consolidation that would be beneficial is we have a lot of small business owners of whom which their business is located within the city limits. However, due to their own circumstances, they are living outside those city limits. They don't have a voice when it comes to being able to decisions that are being made that affect their business. So I can tell you that would be one essential benefit, would be for our small business owners to help them out in the decisions that are being made that affect them every single day.
Thank you very much. And of course, the issue of consolidated government will be on the ballot to vote yes or no. Once again, that will be on November the 6th. Let's go back to Mr. J. Albertia. And if you will direct your question, please, to Ms. Stacey Streetman.
Ms. Streetman, there are a lot of balls up in the air with the city right now, especially quality of life issues. You have the Roxy or the Performing Arts, you have the sports complex out at Exit 8, and you even have a parking garage for downtown, and many others. If you're elected, which one of those priorities would you like to see come to fruition first, and why?
That actually is a difficult question because I actually believe every one of those are important. One thing that I would actually have to probably put above that would be the sports complex. I mean, there are a lot of benefits that come along with having that sports complex. First of all, we don't even have a park within Ward 10 or anywhere close to Ward 10. And obviously with that being located off of Exit 8, that would be right outside of our ward. Add to the fact that our soccer fields are already busting at the seams with players needing to be able to get out and practice, and they're doing the best they can to be able to coordinate everything. But one of the biggest benefits that that sports complex would bring to us is the tourism dollars that it would bring to town, as well as increasing the property value in that area, which I realize is located in the county. However, that does benefit our consolidated Clarksville-Montgomery County school system, which is where our citizens' children are going to school. So I think I would put the sports complex as one of the biggest things so that our families aren't paying that expense to have to go out of town to play in these tournaments. I know there's one coming up in Murfreesboro where 750 people or families are heading that direction.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes. More to the Performance Arts Center and / conference area in the downtown, revitalization of downtown. In reference to that, I know the EDC is working with a private firm to get a conference center built out close to Exit 4, actually basically next to the Walmart area, directly across the street from Governor Square Mall. These are amenities that we could use that will bring business into Clarksville, bring conferences and organizations into Clarksville to work and help with the downtown area. Because if we have the folks here, they'll come visit the downtown, and we can get that continuous revitalization that we so much needed downtown City of Clarksville.
Thank you very much for those responses. Let's go next to Mr. Lee Irwin, and your question will go to Mr. Mike Alexander.
Mr. Alexander, now funding is always a major concern for government entities. Now, in your opinion, are the city departments adequately funded? And if not, what are some of the needs that, say, are not being addressed?
This most recent budget that just passed, my biggest concerns, again, in one of my focal points for running 4 years ago and continuing to serve and wanting to serve 4 more years has been the infrastructure, mainly streets. And this budget addresses that. This budget finally opens up some monies for the street department, as I am the chairman of that department. And we are looking to see, we're looking at out by Exit 8, as was discussed on some other topics, we're looking at some road improvements that have been made by the state, are currently under construction by the city, and new ones that are coming in that'll alleviate the traffic off of Exit 8, take it over to Dunlop Lane, make more access to our hospital. Our hospital's almost landlocked. And now we're working on, and we have in the budget to move up and bring a road across that'll join Professional Park Drive and Cardinal Lane, and the realignment all out by Exit 8 and around the school complex out there that is very much needed.
Ms. Streetman.
Repeat that question, please.
Yes, funding always a major concern for government entities, and in your opinion, are the city departments adequately funded? And if not, what are some of the needs that may not be being addressed?
I think when it comes to that, the city departments are never going to be as adequately funded as what they needed. There's always going to be more and more needs from each one of those departments. And again, as I said before, I think we need to, there's a lot of things that we need to focus on beyond just roads. I think we need to focus on real infrastructure, things such as sidewalks, greenways, which are going to make our area more pedestrian friendly, and that's going to take some more of our cars off the road. We need to think beyond, again, just that. We need to think about the entrances into businesses so we're not all trying to turn in and out multiple places within the street. I think there's a lot of different departments, even beyond just our street department, that needs to be focused on, which is going to include technology, recruitment. I'd like to see us recruit more jobs beyond even just the industrial jobs, but trying to recruit in things that are going to be technology jobs for our millennials that are coming out of Austin Peay, and as well as our very highly trained military. So I think we need to focus some of our energy towards more job recruitment in those areas.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jimmy Settle, let's go back to you. You have the next question, and it will go to Ms. Streetman.
Thank you, Ms. Streetman. Over the past 4 years at both City Hall and the courthouse, one of the most dominant topics of conversation, and this was alluded to earlier in some of the responses, but is downtown revitalization and why it's needed to elevate the tax base of downtown up with other areas of the community. Well, in a rather unorthodox fashion, the county has been taking the lead on some of that. And I guess I want to know from you, do you think the city and the county have the right and logical mix of responsibilities with respect to the downtown revitalization efforts that we see going on right now, whether it be downtown commons or this performing arts center? A lot of people just seem confused in the community about who's doing what with respect to downtown, and what, if that is the case, what can be done to make it better?
I'm actually the chair of the Two Rivers Company Marketing and Promotions Committee, and I also work in our downtown, so I'm a huge proponent of the revitalization of our downtown. It's very encouraging that we've had lots of new businesses open downtown, and seeing them thrive I think is so important, and I think some of that comes along with a lot of the work that the county has done in the downtown area. I think one of the most beneficial things that we could do is us as city council representatives work with our county commissioners. It actually needs to be at that level to see what we can do to work together, because you are correct in what you said, in that increasing our tax base is a great way to increase our revenue without putting more financial burden on our citizens. I'm all for anything that's going to promote our downtown and bring our citizens to it as a gathering part. Our downtown is the heart of our community, whether it's dollars coming into it, whether it's citizens coming into it, and all of that goes back out into our community through the way of the collection of the tax dollars that can be used to move us further. So I do think we need to work hand in hand with the county.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes, and that is one thing I've made it a point to do. I've always wanted better cooperation and better work with the county, with my county representatives that are within Ward 10. We've worked together on projects where they've been able to support me. I think the upward part of the administrations could take notice of how we should work together. I think the county has done excellent downtown, and I was one of the individuals who supported passing the property over to the county and Mayor Durrett so that they could build the green space at the Commons up there. And it's fantastic. My wife and I go up there quite a bit. I truly enjoy the area. And again, I grew up, my grandparents lived out just above Commerce Street on a street it's part of a greenway now. The street doesn't even exist. It was Gupton Alley. That's where I grew up. I used to walk the streets when I was a young kid downtown, and that's where the core of the commercial was. Well, when the commercial left downtown, a lot of that foot traffic went away with it. But if we'll continue to work with Austin Peay and able to bring the students in to enjoy the downtown area, Fort Campbell, get them down there to enjoy the downtown area, and our local citizens support the downtown city of Clarksville, we cannot go wrong, and the city and county have to work together for this to happen.
Thank you very much. If you've just joined us, you're watching Clarksville's Political Forum. We are meeting with candidates for the Clarksville City Council Ward number 10. They are Mr. Mike Alexander and Ms. Stacey Streetman. We've got time for another question from each of our panelists. Let's go back now, if we can, to Mr. J. Albritton. And if you will direct your question, please, to Mr. Mike Alexander.
Mr. Alexander, being in the ward, we know that our major thoroughfares are the MLK as well as 41A, and both are very good roads, and especially with the new construction and expansion. However, with new roads and expansion comes with a lot of growth. A lot of new housing permits have been granted. We see revitalization of what's coming into the old Kmart area. A lot more businesses are coming down the MLK Parkway. Do you see anything about limiting the businesses or planning for that growth a little bit better with the city side on all the things that are coming?
Yes, sir. And I'm glad you mentioned the Kmart situation. The company out of Chattanooga is going to come in there and develop that and get it back up and running. As there's nothing more, and unfortunately Clarksville's been known to see this in different areas of Clarksville, where businesses just pull up and leave, and you've got a large empty building sitting there accomplishing nothing. So this is going to be great for Sango area, Ward 10 specific area. As you know, like I said, we're here to represent the entire city of Clarksville. But with that said, a lot of what's going on out there is going on in the county, and that's where we need, as far as that cooperation between city and county authorities and officials, is be able to sit down and have input. I've been to the RPC and seen where a lot of these subdivisions, major, nice, beautiful homes, are going into the county. And sometimes, especially with drainage currently being an issue out there, especially after 41A was completed and more water started running off, that we need to be working together on the issues of okay, where are we sending the water? What are we doing? These are rooftops instead of ground absorbing the water. So yeah, it's just a lot of work that needs to be done cooperatively, again, going back to the city and county.
Thank you very much. Ms. Streetman.
I apologize. I know it was a long question, but I was a little distracted with the ringing.
The thing is, we have a lot more growth coming in our area. We have the major thoroughfares that are helping bring all that growth to us. What do you see about limiting or planning a little bit better for that growth? So what happened at exit 4 won't be happening to us over at exit 11.
I absolutely agree with the fact that we do need to have a plan in place. I think what we need to do, as I mentioned Chattanooga earlier, it took them 20 years to get to where they are today. There was a lot of planning that went into place with that, and then they stayed along that path to get where they are. I think that's one of the first things that we need to look at, is exactly what we're wanting and where we're wanting our growth to go and how we're wanting that to happen. I think we need to focus on that so that we can gather that plan together and do this growth in a planned fashion. I've often heard that from talking to different people throughout the community, that they don't have a problem with the growth. They would just like us to look at how we're doing that growth so that it's just not happening rapidly where we can't keep up as far as the roads are concerned, as far as the schools are concerned, as far as everything like that is taken into consideration.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lee Irwin, your question goes to Ms. Streetman.
Ms. Streetman, let's talk about public participation or community participation. How would you propose to stay connected with the residents of your ward and also work to increase their involvement in planning for the city's future?
Well, actually, I can definitely attest to that. As far as to be able to stay accessible to me, I am highly accessible. And I talk to people all the time throughout the community that tell me, oh, I saw you here, I saw your picture there. They think I'm just everywhere in town. I'm someone that you can actually find just about anywhere. And I'm not a shy person at all. Whether I'm in the grocery store, whether I'm helping with an event, I'm going to always be talking to someone. Add to that, you know, I want to reach out. I actually really want to. I don't want to just knock doors and talk to people during this election time. I want to stay connected to them, whether it's via email, text message, phone calls, or continuing visiting those doors and staying in touch with them to know best what their needs are. On top of that, if I'm not out somewhere volunteering, helping at an event, at work, you can generally find me sitting on my front porch watching a baseball game on my iPad or reading something on my phone. And if you're driving by and you see me sitting there, please feel free to stop by and say hello and tell me what's going on with you.
Mr. Alexander.
Would you repeat that, please?
Yes. Now, talking about public participation, how would you propose staying connected with the residents of the ward, and also to increase their involvement in planning for the city's future?
Okay. Oh, yeah, and I've continued to do that these past 4 years. Of course, 4 years ago, I was out knocking doors and speaking with folks and getting their input into what needs to be done and explaining to them my vast concerns about being able to get around town. But also, I've been involved in several community meetings. Something I appreciate a great deal is like when Publix went in, when the River Club Golf Course decided they wanted to build a retirement home over there. They contacted me. I contacted my constituents, especially those that lived in the immediate area, but everybody was invited. I held public meetings, invited the public. Folks came out. They gave us their concern. That's what you need. And also, and I believe I've been to a couple that Jay were at, I've been to several HOAs. I've been invited oftentimes to come sit in with some of the neighborhood's HOAs and get their input. What do we need and what's going on in your neighborhood? What can I do for you? My phone number, address, email is all right there on the city site. Anybody needs to get hold of me. If I don't know how else to tell you. It's real easy. My phone number is 931-801-2698. It's in my pocket all the time. Thank you very much.
We go to Mr. Jimmy Settle for the final question from our panelists today, and it will be directed to Mr. Mike Alexander.
So, Mr. Alexander, to help enable voters to know you a little bit better, I would just like to hear if you had some sort of defining moment in the past that led you to want to be a part of this Clarksville City Council. What is it about this position that appeals most of all to you?
And I wish I could say you, but that camera is just right in the middle of us. I hadn't got to look you in the eye all day, Jimmy. But anyhow, no, I felt very strongly again. 1992, my daughter, Sarah Price, who is, again, an accomplished accountant, works for a big firm here in town, was 10 years old at the time that I was elected, and 11 years old by the time I started serving on Clarksville City Council for 8 years, 2 consecutive terms. I have also worked directly in Zone 10, which is Ward 10 here in the city of Clarksville, as a patrol officer and a detective. Retired from that position. Worked as a police officer or as a sheriff's department employee, keeping security down at the Veterans Plaza. Working with the public, you look back at my time in the Marine Corps. I spent 4 years for this country, my time in the community. I've over 30-something years of time working for my community, and that's what I'm here for.
And Ms. Stacey Streetman.
Well, as I mentioned before, there was, of course, the inner city visit to Chattanooga, which really kind of inspired me to make this decision at this point. But 10 years ago, I was part of the steering committee that started Clarksville Young Professionals with the purpose of creating future leaders of our community. Since that time, I have volunteered to help with many things or events going on in our community. From serving as president of CYP during its 2nd year, picking up trash as part of the Great American Cleanup Day, helping Rivers and Spires for 13 years, starting as someone just working in a booth all the way up to helping coordinate volunteers. I've served on numerous boards and committees, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Chamber of Commerce, or the Museum Guild. I've developed a skill set and a network of individuals that can help me excel in any leadership position. The network I have developed with past, current, and future leaders in this community allow me the opportunity to turn wherever is needed to find more information information to be able to see issues from both sides of the coin and work with others to craft solutions for any issues that we are facing. Over the past few years, we've seen way too much energy spent fighting amongst ourselves. I want to be a part that comes in and helps us work together and move us forward.
Thank you very much. That concludes the questions from our panelists. We now turn to our candidates for closing comments. They will come in reverse order from our opening remarks. We'll begin with Ms. Stacey Streetman.
Well, as I told you before, I'm a lifelong resident of the Clarksville-Montgomery County area with a passion for our community. As I mentioned, far too often over the last few years, there's been too much time, effort, and energy spent wasting fighting within the council or with the city. We can accomplish far more as a team, and I believe I can bring a fresh approach and have the cooperative spirit necessary to look past personalities and focus on the item at hand, not where the idea came from. I want to channel my energy towards working for the citizens of Clarksville, not working against the powers that be. I truly believe I can make an even bigger difference in our community than I already have, and based on the support I've gotten from so many different people, they obviously believe the same thing as well. I believe that I can be the representative that you need for Ward 10 on the City Council. I'm a smart individual, and like I said, I'm well connected with a lot of people, and that's not just within the business community, that's within our entire ward. I've worked hard so far over the last decade. I'm ready to work even harder and move us forward. On November 6th, please consider voting Stacey Streetman for your Ward 10 City Council representative.
Next, we'll have closing comments from Mr. Mike Alexander.
Thank you. As I stated before, my concern for the city of Clarksville goes back, moved here in 1967 as a young child, grew up here, have been in this city, have watched it grow, and have appreciate a lot of what's gone on as far as the growth, but then there is some guidance that's still needed. I'd ask you to keep me in mind and remember who's been working hard for you these past 4 years out in Ward 10, who's been concerned. Again, this job isn't just the representative of Ward 10. We represent Ward 10 directly, but we also are in charge of keeping the city of Clarksville moving forward, keeping the tax bases down, and keeping the traffic flowing. Married. Been here, married for 35 years to my darling wife, and having served my country and my city, and with the Red Cross and many other aspects. I'd ask you to keep in mind, Mike Alexander, that your current city councilman, the man working for you, re-elect him to Ward 10, and let's keep moving forward. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to our candidates today, Mike Alexander and Stacey Streetman. I want to say, first of all, thank you for the way that you have served this community, because I know you both have been active in service to the city of Clarksville and our community. But on top of that, thank you also for being willing to serve as an elected official here in the city of Clarksville. I want to remind you that early voting takes place October the 17th through November the 1st. The location will be at the Election Commission office at 350 Pageant Lane, Suite 404. And then again on November the 6th, the state general and city of Clarksville elections will take place. Your part in democracy, get out and vote. Thank you also to our panelists today, Mr. Jimmy Settle, Mr. Lee Irwin, and Mr. Jay Albertia. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And thanks to our timekeeper, once again, Ms. Yvonne Pickering. I want to say thank you, too, to the Mass Communications Department here at Austin Peay State University for making this broadcast possible, and a very special thank you to Leadership Clarksville and to your Clarksville Area Chamber of Commerce for making this political forum possible. Until next time, I'm Van Stokes. Thank you for watching.